Hello and welcome to Monolith Productions' top 5 builds from Shadow of War. These are some of our favorite builds that we've seen from the community members, from ones that we've made on live streams, and from ones we just sort of found and loved whilst playing Shadow of War. Of these builds, each one of them are absolutely loved. There's not a better build here. It really just depends on the Uruk you're going against and your own personal playstyle. Some of these builds will be better on normal difficulty or nemesis difficulty versus Gravewalker or brutal, and really it's up to you to decide which ones you prefer. Build 1, the Necromancer build. The Necromancer build is an endgame build that players can use in order to have the power of Sauron at their fingertips. Many of the gear allows the user to quickly and automatically raise grunts from the dead. Urfile has a % chance of killing grunts that will raise them from the dead. There is a % chance that a Karn in a stealth attack will raise the dead as well. The Blackened Servant's Armor, which is a crux of the ability, has a 25% chance of raising the dead when a friendly orc is killed. Using these pieces, you will be constantly surrounded by many undead orcs. Now, of these undead orcs, you're also able to raise the dead with an ability once your might is full. Combine this with the hammer, you'll be able to be healing the undead as you're throwing it and keeping your undead army alive, or dead, depending on how you foresee this thing. Now, in a 1-to-1 fight with a captain, the Necromancer build is kind of lacking. There isn't any specific special part of it besides the fact that you could be surrounded by the undead. So if you've killed off a lot of grunts and then you're taking them to fight off a captain, having those extra grunts around fighting for you is amazing because you can bring back the dead. Now, during a fortress assault, this build really shines. You have tons of allied orcs running in a fortress assault and tons of enemy grunts that you have a chance to kill. Combining all that together, you'll be slicing and dicing and raising the dead, plus orcs that are on your side will just be rising from the dead as well. So you have this massive undead army before long. The second build is the Frost build. This is a personal favorite of mine that works incredibly on brutal difficulty. This one uses a lot of epic gear and a couple pieces from the Bright Lord set. The goal here is to have an increased amount of wrath gain, and also to be using a lot of the flurry attacks in order to get yourself extra might. This is because if you check out the armor set, you will have 55% damage reduction when you have a full might bar. As well as if you check out the ring, you will have a 15% chance to freeze as long as your wrath is full. Combined, you'll be freezing tons of things by just normal attacks, and then also you'll be taking very little damage. On top of this, you have an amazing cloak that'll allow you to disappear whenever you succeed at a last chance, and then with the dagger you can do a stealth attack and immediately freeze your opponent. It also has a nice quick throw freeze attack with it, and also the hammer, when thrown at a fully charged one, will freeze an opponent. Now, all this freezing is incredibly valuable in a 1v1 fight. It is so powerful that even people who are frostproof, these Uruks will get frozen and then break the ice off of them. They still will freeze for just a moment. Now, one of the things that does suffer from this build is that there isn't really a lot of support in a fortress assault. It is good for taking out individual Uruks, which, yes, can be helpful in a fortress assault, but for supporting your fellow allies, it's a 1v1 build. Build 3 is the Fiery Explodey build. This is not the official name, but the one that we like to be using on stream. Now, this build is not as good on higher difficulty levels like Brutal or Gravewalker. This happens to do with how damage is calculated on those difficulties. However, in all the other builds, this still does amazing, and you can absolutely use some of the strategies of this build on those higher difficulty levels with some of the changes. Alright, so this build is kind of a 3-ish style build. You can have a lot of Warmonger gear and a little machine gear, a lot of machine gear and a little Warmonger gear, or find something down the middle. If you're going to go for something down the middle, what you end up getting is a build that has 25% of enemy grunts exploding when dying. And you will heal about 20 health every second from fire. Now, with the special healing from fire, this is because you will find yourself exploding sometimes from these grunts around you. So it's really helpful to actually get healed when those grunts explode. If you go more machine, you'll lose the extra healing from the Warmonger gear, but you'll gain more exploding grunts. If If you go more Warmonger, you may lose the machine explosion, but you will gain the ability to heal more from fire. This is so powerful of a heal, you can actually shoot grog barrels when you're right next to them and heal to full health when you were losing health. Now, regardless of what style build you're going for, I highly recommend that you use the machine's legendary sword. This is because when you take a glaive out with it, it causes an explosion. If you have the skill Deadly Striker, it allows you to have a combo of explosions. Absolute joy. Now in a 1v1 fight, all three of these combinations are actually very good. The machine one less so because you don't have the ability to shoot a grog barrel and explode, which you can get from the Warmonger and a machine combo, or just the Warmonger one. But using the extra machine abilities, you're able to cause explosions that will help create a little bit of a distance between you and the enemy captain. Warmonger, with that ability to shoot the grog barrel, is amazing, plus the ability to heal on fire means that if someone is using a fire weapon against you, you will heal from the attacks as opposed to get hurt. And on the higher levels of using legendary Warmonger gear, you're actually exploding in fire. For Fortress Assaults, the Warmonger gear doesn't necessarily bring anything extra to help your allies. It is nice to be able to explode grog barrels and heal, and also Drake's breathe fire, which also helps you protected from them when you have the extra fire from Warmonger. But really it is the machine ability that really shines, but not because it's helpful. Machine Tribe gear is wonderful because it will cause so many grunts to explode, and that will cause death of grunts, which will cause more grunts to explode. It's like a Lord of the Rings fireworks holiday. The fourth build is a balefire build. Balefire is a new addition that was added in Shadow of War that allows you to combine fire and poison together to create this green flame. This green flame does more damage than fire, does more damage than poison. It is an amazing combination that will just destroy any Uruk that you're using it on. Fire generally does a lump sum of damage, and poison generally does a % of damage, so when you combine the two, it is extremely powerful. Now there's a lot of different ways to do a balefire build. In fact, you can use your normal character abilities in order to gain poison and fire on two different ones and combine them. The real thing that makes this build work is that you have weapons that add fire, or weapons that add poison, armor sets, and that sort of thing. This build relies on a rune that will add fire 15% of the time when you have full wrath. This is very similar to the ice build, except that now you're burning things. So now what you want to do is be using poison so that those things that are burning can be poisoned. And so once again, you can use character abilities to rely on that. Or as you can see here, I use a lot of the dark armor, which increases damage from poison, so that you can do extra damage with the poison that is combined with the fire. Now this build really shines when you are in a 1v1 fight, because you're able to burn someone and then poison them, or if they're poisoned right now, then you can burn them, and so on and so forth, continuing this cycle in a circle. One of the advantages here is that fire causes an animation where people run around, and poison causes an animation where people vomit. So you will basically cycle through the animations as people become poisoned and burned back and forth, consistently causing damage. Now for a Fortress Assault, this build is kind of lacking because it doesn't really bring anything to really support your followers. Now similar to the machine build, however, the dark ability that comes with the legendary gear set has the chance of adding a explosive poison. Now with this ability, you're kind of creating the same situation with the machine set. We have tons of explosions poisoning other people, which cause more explosions and poisons more people. Great fun, definitely going to take out some of your own troops in the process. The Bandit build is a combination of the Marauder and Outlaw gear set that will allow you to get massive spikes in damage and in healing whilst you're fighting orcs. Now the Marauder gear causes Mirian to drop and will increase attack and heal you based upon the number of Mirian you pick up. So this can get compounded. If you were to pick up 100 Mirian, well, that's over 100%. That's 200% extra damage. If you're able to pick up 1,000 Mirian, which you can get from treasure ologs, you get to the thousands of % of extra damage. This means that if you were to go nab one of those treasure ologs and then slice off the head of an Uruk, it might take one normal melee attack to do so once you're using the Marauder gear set. Now we combine in the Outlaw gear set because, well, it's great fun. It allows you to have a high % chance of causing a status effect, poison, fire, curse, etc. on normal melee hits. Now this will cause an enemy to burn, or to freeze, or to run around and vomit. A lot of the status effects we've talked about in the previous builds will apply here. You can't control it, and that just adds to the fun. Plus, the extra damage that you're going to be getting from picking up Mirian is going to make you extra powerful when you're randomly burning. Oh, here's a potential balefire combo as well. Now, in a 1v1 fight, this build either has a huge advantage because you've just picked up a ton of Mirian before you started the fight and now are insanely powerful in damage, or it doesn't really add too much besides the outlaw gear set. So it's really about preparation when you're going up against a single captain. Now, for a fortress assault, being that your armor set that you're wearing in the Marauder gear set will have your fellow allied grunts killing enemies, and those enemies will then be dropping Mirian at a higher rate, you will have tons of Mirians scattered around the fortress. Just run around, pick all up those pieces, and then you can take out enemies in very high damage swipes. Oh, and an important part of this is this build needs the ability to pick up items on the fly. It's so that you don't have to loot a body every time that you've taken it out in order to pick up the gear, and you need that because you can't exactly go spend minutes of your time fiddling through the pockets of every single Uruk that you've killed. It takes too long, you'll miss out on the bonus damage, and you'll likely get hurt. So what were your favorite builds in today's video? Or let me know what your favorite builds are in general so that we can learn from each other. We're gonna have a lot of beginners on this video, and so people should share what they've learned so that others can take advantage of your brilliance.
All together now. Close enough.